This is the news in brief from the United Nations. A team of UN atomic energy experts set out on Monday for Zaporizhzhia's nuclear power station in Ukraine after weeks of rising tensions between Ukrainian and Russian forces who have accused each other of shelling the plant. In a tweet, Rafael Grossi, head of the International Atomic Energy Agency IAEA, said that he would lead the agency's support and assistance mission to Zaporizhzhia, which is under Russian control. The day has come to protect the safety and security of the plant, which is Europe's largest, Mr. Grossi wrote on Twitter, alongside a photograph of himself and 13 other IAEA staff preparing for their mission. Once the IAEA team arrives in Zaporizhzhia later this week, Mr. Grossi said that priorities included carrying out damage assessments and evaluating whether safety and security systems at Zaporizhzhia remained functional. Other urgent tasks also include checking on the welfare of the Ukrainian staff still running the plant, which houses 6 of the country's 15 nuclear reactors. In a related development, the UN-led initiative to secure shipments of grain and other foodstuffs from Ukraine's Black Sea ports said that around 1.25 million metric tons have now been successfully shipped. The update on Sunday from the Joint Coordination Centre, which involves Ukraine, Russia, Turkey and the UN, reported that 62 inbound and 52 outbound voyages had been approved since the agreement was signed on the 27th of July in Istanbul. 3 commercial vessels were authorised to move on Monday from Ukrainian ports, carrying more than 70,000 tonnes of foodstuffs. One of the ships, the Karteria, was due to depart for Turkey with 37,500 metric tonnes of wheat purchased by the UN World Food Programme WFP. It will be milled to flour in Turkey and it will then be loaded onto a new ship that will head to Yemen, the Joint Coordination Centre said. To Ethiopia, where top rights experts appointed by the UN Human Rights Council have condemned a deadly attack on a children's playground in Tigray. The development comes after renewed fighting last week between the government of Ethiopia and the Tigray People's Liberation Front, breaking a 4-month humanitarian truce. Media reports indicated that at least 7 people, including 3 children, were killed in the airstrike in Mekelle, the capital of Tigray region in northern Ethiopia, last Friday. Such fighting only worsens the hardships on civilians and risks a violent escalation, warned the International Commission of Human Rights Experts for Ethiopia. The panel of experts was established by the Human Rights Council in December 2021 at the request of member states who'd expressed alarm at spreading violence in Tigray and beyond, and the dire humanitarian crisis that has resulted from a lack of aid access. Daniel Johnson, UN News.
This is the news in brief from the United Nations. Pakistan urgently needs a minimum of $160 million to get help quickly and at a scale to the many millions of people affected by the worst flooding in decades, the UN said on Tuesday. In a joint appeal with the Pakistan government, the UN aid coordination body OCHA said that an estimated 33 million people have been impacted and more than 1,000 have died, including hundreds of children. Nearly 900 health centres have been damaged by the floodwaters, according to Christian Lindmeier from the UN World Health Organization.
When we hear flooding, we very often just think about people drowning, but it's so much more to it. You have crush injuries from the debris floating in the water. You have electrical shocks from wires going around. You have the lack of drinking water, of course, and that's not only a problem for the immediate situation, but for the medium situation as well.
Nearly 1 million homes have been damaged and over 700,000 livestock have been lost, with southern provinces Sindh and Balochistan particularly hard hit. The emergency plan aims to provide help to 5.2 million of the worst affected and most vulnerable people in Pakistan for an initial 6 months. Priorities for humanitarians include delivering life-saving and livelihood assistance, including health services, food, clean water and shelter. Relief teams also want to prevent large outbreaks of communicable diseases such as cholera. UN Human Rights Chief Michelle Bachelet on Tuesday voiced frustration at Israel's refusal to issue or renew visas for her staff trying to work in the occupied Palestinian territories. A lack of visa approvals in 2020 meant that the 15 international staff representing Ms Bachelet's office there had no choice but to leave, the High Commissioner said in a statement. Subsequent requests for visas and visa renewals went unanswered for 2 years, Ms Bachelet explained, adding that Israel continues to refuse to engage with her efforts to find a solution. She maintained that the development was part of a wider trend to block human rights access to the occupied Palestinian territories, and that it raises the question of what exactly the Israeli authorities are trying to hide. In Yemen, the UN team leading efforts to transfer more than 1 million tonnes of oil from a rusting tanker issued a new appeal on Tuesday for funding to ensure that the salvage operation can go ahead. To date, $66 million has been pledged towards the operation, but less than a sixth of that amount has been paid out. Russell Geeky from the UN humanitarian team in Yemen said that nothing works on the stricken boat, the FSO Safa. And he urged all donors to make good on their pledges as quickly as possible and for other potential contributors to do so as soon as possible, or else risk an environmental catastrophe.
This ship is in bad shape. They need to get aboard. They need to make it safe. They need to pump inert gas into the tanks. $80 million isn't, it's not a small amount of money, but compared to the costs, if this thing breaks up, it's really nothing, frankly.
Mr. Geeky said that the Safa, which is moored around 4 kilometres off Yemen's coastline, continues to decay and could break up or explode at any time. The volatile currents and strong winds from October to December will only increase the risk of a disaster, the UN official explained, adding that the cost of cleaning up the environmental disaster is estimated at $20 billion. Katie Dartford, UN News.